Jeff.
Hi, Kira. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Jeff has this lovely mountain man beard now.
I have been working on a movie, and I had to grow it out for that, and it is unique for me because
I like it.
I've never really had a beard before. Yeah?
Do you have to put oil on it to oil it and make it all nice?
I haven't. Oil, I
think they sell beard oil. You may have to look into it. Or it's scratchy. It gets scratchy.
I'm going to have to look into that.
Just don't make out with anyone until you get the oil.
Until I get the beard oil.
Watch out for the cat. Happy episode 20.
Happy episode 20.
Welcome back.
20 episodes. We've been around for a while. We're continuing to have fun, talk about fun topics, and just keep the ball rolling because we like to have fun here at Launch Radio. Episode 20, Geoff and Kira. Today, we are going to be talking about a fun topic, as always, one that's very relevant to current society and one that does connect in with a lot of hot topics.
I think especially with the election coming up, and I think there's always a level, an underlying topic and emphasis of mindfulness. Mm-hmm. And it's basically just being mindful of the way you approach the world around you. And in this case, it's about stereotypes and unconscious bias and labeling.
I think that in the world today that we all very much have bias. There's no denying that at this point. And we all hopefully admit that we do have bias, and how our bias factors in is starting to be talked about more, but I don't think it's talked about nearly to the degree that it should be talked about. Really, in all facets of life. We'll focus in more on one specifically today, but it really impacts how people see not just the world, but how we see each other.
100%. And I think the way the brain kind of works is that we almost need to have categories for every single person. And if we don't have the categories of someone, our brain can't compute and understand what we're seeing. So, for example, if someone were to say, the kitten's a little wide awake right now and she wants fed. She's
having fun. She's doing great.
And kitten, I mean by my actual cat, not anything else.
There she goes.
So let's say someone's like, hey, I'm a Republican. You immediately have a checklist in your brain and you immediately stereotype that person into one thing, and it's probably a man, conservative, pro-life, religious.
All about the Bible, the Constitution, and the laws.
Now, is that fair to make that assumption about someone just because they said they're Republican? What if it was a gay Republican who's black, and then you're thrown off when you're like, whoa, it's being consciously aware of the things that are fed to you. So the way advertising works is they bucket you okay, you're a mom with 2 kids and a third on the way, which means Nissan Quest, the van, is going to be pumping you all kinds of advertising because you're now going to have to be a van mom.
Because of that stereotype.
That's
right.
So, and that's how advertising works. But then we feed it, or it's fed to us, and then we absorb it, and then we believe it. And that's the problem.
And I feel like, the problem is in the society that we live in, a lot of it is very difficult to get away from because people specifically do fit into categories or boxes that they choose and that they want to be in. It's like some people want to be a part of something, and that's totally fair. But I think that it's easy for us to try to, know what other people are into or what they're all about without them even saying,
right? Because
of things that have been perceived in the media, right. Or that, a certain, topic, like if a person is a Republican or a Democrat, you automatically make judgments about them.
Right.
That's the thing I think we need to become more aware of.
And I think it's actually gotten a lot worse where, I think everyone's pigeonholed into something. I remember when I worked at Google, goes down to male and female. When I worked at Google, I was in sales in a very male-dominated industry, working in automotive. So I had developed a very strong presence and no nonsense. And I'm also from the East Coast, which we have a very direct way of talking. And when I worked at Google, I would be written up because I was cold and distant, because I wasn't the typical woman who was, around the water cooler talking about my dating life. So because I was acting who I was, it was not okay because I'm cold and distant. However, a man who would be saying the same things I would be saying or being as direct, that would be appropriate. And this is a company that writes books about unconscious bias. And here they're doing it themselves. So it's almost like how, I'm a woman. I'm supposed to be quiet and happy and put smiley faces in my emails. But because I wasn't, I would be written up. And it's like, you need to be someone else. And I'm like, but that's not who I am.
Okay. So that's, and that brings us to the, why do people have these preconceived judgments about people, and why, and what, and in the, feminist movement and the masculinity, all of that, are there judgments happening within that? As far as, if a person is a guy, are there judgments about them? If a person's a woman, are there judgments about them? And what are these judgments, and how do we, with everything that's happening, it's such a wide question, but how the unconscious bias of that specifically, how do both genders try to work together to understand that better? What is the solution to get around the unconscious bias? What can we do about that?
Yeah, I think it's a very fair question. I think you have to approach every person out there with a blank slate.
Yes.
But consciously do it, because your brain is going to immediately see a whatever person and then think that the categories are going to be checkboxing in your brain, right? Of like, okay, this person's X, Y, and Z. I think you have to approach life with no past or any sort of preconceived notion of anyone.
Right.
But that takes a lot of work. That's not natural.
It's not natural.
Our brains, have a hard time with that, because for us to understand people, we put them in buckets. So you have to, you can retrain your brain. Your brain is a muscle. You don't have to think the way that you do. You choose to think the way you do. So if you choose to think that all Republicans are bad, so every time you meet one, you immediately think all these horrible things, that's your choice.
Or Democrats.
That's your choice. That's not like, oh, that's my brain, I can't fix it. It's like, no, you're in charge of your thoughts. So if you meet someone that's like, whatever, different than you, you have to actively be like, hey, wait, there is more to someone than just the label that you're putting on them. Like if I were to say, Geoff, you're a white man with a beard, tall with a hat. And then I go into my checklist of, okay, probably from the Midwest, probably, and I jot down, is that fair to you? Does that encompass everything about you? And I think it's just taking time to stop with that kind of like, here's your persona that I'm putting on you, And
I think that's, we definitely need to work on that and address how that unconscious bias is factoring in, and the way that I approach it really, because I constantly am working on this, is I pretend like, because it's really hard for people to do, like you were saying, I pretend like this is kind of fun and silly, but it kind of works. Is if you pretend that you've just arrived at Earth and you don't know anybody. You don't know anything about anybody. You don't know anything, and that you're an alien. Like play pretend, and literally like live in that for a while. Like that you don't have any preconceived notions about anyone. Not even nobody. Not even the president. Nobody. You have to walk in and start everything with a clean slate.
Is that every day? So you wake up and you're like, this is a new day. These are all people I don't even like.
Well, I mean, my belief system is, I think that everything is happening right in the right now. Part of it's living in the right now.
So do you feel that you have stereotypes or have a preconceived, like when you see someone of a certain whatever, or they tell you that they're a Democrat or Republican, do you have that like brain switches on? It's like, oh, they're probably a blah, 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 blah. And then the checklist goes down.
Well, I would say that no, I don't. But I do think that they have the propensity to, like, that since in society generally Democrats hold a certain belief system and generally Republicans have a certain belief system.
But that's the scary part.
The person tells
me saying generally.
Correct. Yes.
Because there are people that are like, well, generally Black people are criminals. And it's like, that's not entirely accurate, Correct.
But I feel like that when you identify with a political party, a lot of people want people to know that they are with that political party because they hold that certain political party's beliefs. So in a way, you have to kind of respect that to that degree. But I don't go down a checklist and think all of that about them when they tell me that. I just think that they might have the propensity to have those beliefs because they want to have those beliefs because they're part of that party.
So do you feel like, yeah, it does. So the way you approach everyone in your environment, has that always been part of you? Or did you have to work on saying, you know what? I live in like second by second, and I'm not going to use preconceived notions or the media shoving categories and labels into my face in order for me to make my own reality. Has that always been part of how you've seen the world, or is that like a conscious effort of like trying to like, hey, benefit of the doubt?
I don't know if it's nature or nurture, so to say. I don't know if it's like you're born with how you think, or if it's your upbringing, it's your path, it's your I do think one factor is, in college, I majored in acting, and, I was always learning acting. Like everybody was learning all different things, and I was learning acting. Like I was learning acting so deeply with Meisner and those crafts. And as an actor, what's the big thing that you learn? We learned from Meisner that the big thing about a character is a point of view and understanding that character's point of view. So when you're trained to see the world through that lens, and you see everyone with a point of view, and you're playing characters as an actor, you see that people have different points of view. And so I think with the frame of trying to understand what that person's point of view is, that became embedded in who I was, and caused me to be less quick to judge, less quick to stereotype, because I know that everybody's seeing something from their point of view. And when you take on a character, it's bad. One of the big things you learn is don't judge the character. Like, don't judge the character, because the bad guy doesn't necessarily think he's a bad guy.
Right.
Or her thinks she's a bad guy.
And who's to say he's, quote unquote, the bad guy? John Dillinger would rob banks.
Right.
But he also gave to the poor. So then you're like,
yeah,
Robin Hood, who's the bad guy?
That's right. So
interesting.
I think for me, that was definitely a big chunk of it was, if I was trained to not judge characters, I was trained not to judge humans, because characters are humans.
Right.
And I was kind of brought up in that frame with acting. And it actually surprises me, because, I'm on set a lot, and, I'm an actor and I'm around actors, and a lot of them, we were all trained to do that. And so, I feel like some actors are more like, most actors that I've found, the vast majority, are more towards the left Democrat Party.
Yeah.
And very against Republicans.
Right.
And
it's
all
like a
that.
Hollywood thing.
That's a Hollywood thing.
Yeah.
Now, some people don't talk about their beliefs, or, some people keep it to themselves. But because playing a character, you have that degree of openness, it actually surprises me that there's not more of that there's not more of, maybe that person has some type of a point of view that I don't understand, or maybe they have something that I don't know. And some people can do this, but it's very hard for people to do it.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, even though you're taught that craft, that everyone is building a character and that everyone has a point of view and not to judge that character. I don't know of too many people that actually embody that and live that like you do.
I don't think that. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's like an amazing thing that everyone can learn from, of like, hey, because would you say you're happier than when they're stereotyping and they're let down by the whatever they see, or they're just like assume things because of preconceived notions? Like, would you say that you are a happier person because of that?
No, it just comes back to
you're like, no, I feel like shit still.
Well, no, I don't feel one way or the other. I just come back to full circle, like back
still
to the
manic
alien.
Depressive.
Back to full circle of, still the alien. Like, it comes full circle, because I'm like, yep, I'm pretending to be alien, and yep, there it proves it, back alien. So it really just like takes me full circle in that. Because I held some very liberal beliefs, and I also hold some very conservative beliefs. And so, but that doesn't mean that I don't, if someone is like a lunatic or something, like I judge them. I don't not judge anyone ever. Like we all judge. But when you meet someone that you don't know, or that says that they're a part of this group or that or whatever, like I don't judge them unless they're in the in jail for some type of huge crime or something they've done. Like I don't judge people for being parts of groups.
It's funny. I when I first moved out to Los Angeles, everyone has this ideal that it's all chill here, and you get this like.
That's another one. That's a big one.
You just think you're like, oh, everyone's super chill. Everyone goes to the beach, and like it is so not chill here.
Yeah.
It's 8,000 times more heightened energy and go, and way more than New York could ever possibly be. It's not what people think at all. So the minute you get here, you're like, whoa, that just like rained on my parade, possibly, where I'm like, I had no idea what it was like out here.
Yeah.
Because there's those stereotypes of like, oh, the South equals people that are rednecks. The West equals hippies. Northeast or Yankee. You just kind of pigeonhole people.
Well, people in the Midwest, when I wanted to move to Los Angeles, would say, I mean, you talk about stereotypes and bad. I mean, they had stereotypes about, and I'm sure, you're from the Northeast or whatever. Like they had stereotypes about how LA was, you know, and what it was like. But it was a little confusing to me because some people would say that it was fast-paced big city, And some people would say that it was, really chill, like, hey, dude, like surfer, let's go to the beach. So I'm like, well.
Or 90210. It would be like the Valley. You'd get that too.
Yeah. So I'm like, apparently, I don't know what it is, since half the crowd in Missouri thinks this and half thinks that. And often they weren't good things. I mean, I don't hear people say, and by the way, people out here say bad things about the Midwest. This works both ways, but I actually listen. People in the Midwest would say, "Oh, you're going to LA, the land of fruit and nuts."
Oh shit!
Yes,
really?
Fruit and nuts, insulting, sexuality and insulting. Yeah. I mean, maybe there are a lot of nuts out, like crazy people. Well, I don't know about that, but as far as just it was kind of stereotype on, but people say that. But then out here, people also say bad things about the Midwest. So like people would say very just graphic things about both sides, and it always felt to me like it was like confusing to me because I didn't understand why.
I just feel like that's becoming even more prevalent. I feel like when we were kids back yonder,
back yonder,
we didn't have such a polarized view on everyone. I don't feel like there was such like that person's this and they're bad, and this person's this and they're better, and it just seems like the whole country is just like way divisive and way polarized. There's no such a thing as a moderate Republican. They're gone. They don't even exist anymore. Yeah. It's all very opposite, What does masculinity mean these days? What does femininity mean these days?
So back into that. The masculinity and femininity, there was a tweet, Lisa, is it Breton? She had tweeted about, today, she tweeted and said that, what was she talking about? She said, I don't use words like toxic, radical when describing modern feminism. I use misguided instead. I'm not here to be divisive. I want to have a discussion, yet some are still unable to listen to differing opinions. You're either with us or against us. Misguided may not cut it. So first off, I mean, Lisa and Kira and I have had lots of discussions. Lisa's wonderful. She's a free thinker, children's book author here in LA, and she is very open to open discussion, which is great and a breath of fresh air. So we had some debates in the last week, but I responded to her tweet today, and I said regarding feminism, because I'm just curious. I ask a lot of questions. And I said, is feminism about women's rights and gender equality, or is it about female power and male obedience?
I just don't know anyone that would define it as the latter. Male obedience?
Male obedience. There, I would hope that there aren't anyone.
If there's one person that is like, it's the latter, I'm going to lose my brain.
So why are people... If feminism is about women's rights and gender equality, why are there people that attack feminism? Why are there people that are against it? That sounds like a good message to me.
That's because feminism, like any movement, and not just feminism, but any of them, you can have radicals. The pendulum can swing really hard to one side. Which
is when they do become about female power and male.
And that is the ones that you're like, oh my effing God, calm down. Right. Like that's where the women and their torches and they're wearing shirts that say men are trash. And you're like, okay, I don't want to be associated as a feminist if there are people wearing that, so the word encompasses so much. Just because it's defined as women's rights and gender equality that's a very broad definition. People take that into their own hands and then bring historical data and information into that. So like, hey, I'm for gender equality, but it's female is the future and it's our time now.
Okay, so yeah, future is female. The future is female shirts and stuff that you see.
Yeah.
So that's going...
Those are my favorite.
So that's going beyond, is that going beyond women's rights and gender equality?
I understand what they're trying to say in it. However, can you imagine if a man wore a shirt that said, the future is male? Like, my God. I don't think it's fair to say one future is one type of gender or the other. I get that they're trying to say the future is female. Like, hey, we're empowered too. We're now getting equality. And it's like, I get it, but
and some of them drift too far into that, where they actually look down on guys instead of about just women's rights and gender equality. It's taken too far.
Where it's like, hey, it's our time now. Now you get to feel the now you get to feel the pain that all women have felt for the past 900 million years. And it's like, is that how you get gender equality? Is by shoving the other person down?
Right.
Or is it better to have a conversation? But there are women who are just very vengeful. And
I view that both sides should be able to do that. I think that people are misperceiving things on both sides.
Well, and then there's men who are part of the red pill on Reddit who are like
too far
very pro-masculine, very pro-male,
too far,
hates anti-feminism. There's people that follow me on Twitter that are anti-feminists. I am not anti-anything. What I am anti, maybe if I were to pick one thing, is people that bucket other people and pigeonhole them into things. Like, you're a guy, so you're supposed to act like this. You're a woman, you're supposed to act like this. And it's like, why and where is the book written that that's the role you're supposed to play? I just think that shit's bullshit.
So I feel like that, we're headed into a direction in society where we need to, and this is illustrative of the divisiveness, where everyone just needs to realize that we're pro-human, that everyone is, and that's a lot of what, the message is here on our humanity and AI podcast is that to be pro-human and to not hold that hatred for, whomever, for the other gender, for...
There's no team. We're all on the same team.
We're all on the same team.
We all live on Earth. We all go through wicked things in life that nobody knows about. Everyone deserves empathy. Everyone deserves respect. No matter if you're white or black or blue or green, and male or female, or any type of gender affiliation that you decide to choose.
Correct.
You are a human being on planet Earth. We all share that, and we're all trying to get through this thing called life.
Yeah.
Truly, that's all that matters. Whether your beliefs are different than mine doesn't necessarily mean that you're
a bad person.
Because
you have different beliefs.
And it's like,
that's right.
No, you think uniquely than the next person. And thank God for that. What are we, robots? We all want to think the same? My God. That's communism China.
Everybody can,
right?
That's right. Everyone can have their own beliefs.
There's a reason why there's protests going on in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Everyone's entitled to it. And I think the general motto of today's podcast is really like, hey, as we get into the election year and into things, and the media is going to be pushing heavy one way or the other, right? And they're going to either be validating your current beliefs or they're going to be knocking them. And you're going to want to get really into these embittered type of arguments. It's like, take a step back before you judge or make a stereotype or a label. And why not learn the person, who that person is, before your brain makes those checkoff lists of everything that the brain thinks the category is.
And people, and I think that's really important. And people also attach they attach their ego to these things.
Oh, 100%.
That's the problem. I think that's why I think that's one reason why I'm able to do the alien thing, to be able to
the alien thing,
because I don't really attach my ego to most. I don't attach my ego. I really don't.
You're okay with stuff. Saying,
I don't attach. People attach their ego.
I don't know. To stuff. Whereas people like to be like, no, I'm right. No, I'm right. Yeah. Nobody likes to say, okay, that's fair.
Nobody can do that.
No one can do that. That is a really, really hard thing to do.
Very few people can do that. I'm not afraid to be wrong.
Right. And what's wrong and what's right, really.
Because I see subjective,
Correct.
Subjectivity. You see subjectivity, and
that's truly. I think you're the model citizen and human being that we should all be.
I mean, I don't know.
Everyone needs to be like Geoff,
no.
and
and Kira, be like Kira. I mean, anyway. But yes, I really think that there's truth to
it's mindfulness. It's truly being conscious of and being aware of the thoughts in your brain, because the minute you create a thought in your brain, it's a pattern, and it's really hard to break that pattern. You can do it. It's just be very wary of the things that your brain kind of connects and makes patterns with. Republican doesn't necessarily mean he's an NRA card carrying member who loves his guns, lives in the South, is a rich asshole. That doesn't necessarily mean that, right?
Well, right. Did you see that Alyssa Milano, Hollywood Alyssa Milano, Me Too and everything?
Yep.
She's, obviously been, wanting to do something about the guns and figuring that out. She met with Ted Cruz.
I saw that. I saw that on Twitter. I didn't read it yet.
That's right. And then she came back and she tweeted that she owns 2 guns. Alyssa Milano owns 2 guns. Her and Dave Bugliari, her husband from CA, they're gun owners. So who would have thought that Alyssa Milano owns guns?
Right.
That's the stereotype.
Well, that's the thing,
Alyssa Milano owns guns. Okay?
And she met with Ted Cruz.
She met with Ted Cruz, which is amazing.
Which is super conservative.
So
Ivy's like, what?
So your immediate judgment about her would be you would never think she would have a gun because she's working so hard on gun rights, and and then she says that outright, and your brain goes it does a spins from it. So, and
I get that when I say, I'm a men's advocate, it tweaks the brain a little bit where you're like, wait, the brain's like, wait, you're a female, you should be feminism. And I'm like, and it tweaks people's brains where they're like, wait, what? And it takes a double take. It's the double take.
And
I'm a female, I'm supposed to be on the side of women. I'm like, I'm not on the side of humans.
That's right. And that's what you have to know about Kira is also, is that right? Oh, did it?
No,
it's still going. We can resume. There we go. Oh, it's got it. And that's the other thing is people would naturally think that just because you're, people naturally think that you're, it's okay and everything, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. People would naturally think that because you're, masculine, men matter too and everything. Oh, she's Republican. Oh, she's hard right. Oh,
apparently I'm right wing now.
There's also that judgment.
And I'm like, I didn't know I was right wing. Thank you for letting me know. I'm like, I don't see this as a political side. I see it as humanity. And humanism.
Right.
So I don't feel that there's any political part of it. But Geoff is right in that because I am for men's rights and men's respect and empathy, that actually veers toward the right wing.
It overlaps.
It overlaps with the right wing's conservative views.
And believing in male,
roles
so
and all of that.
Overlap in their belief system.
That doesn't necessarily mean I'm a conservative and Republican. So I guess what we're trying to say is be very, very cautious.
Don't judge the character.
Correct. There's a reason why I don't judge the book by its cover.
Yeah.
That was always an old saying and kind of annoying. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, I have tattoos all up my arm. And, it's like when you see guys that are fully tatted necks, are you scared of them immediately? You've got to be really careful about that stuff.
You got to be careful about it.
And be like Geoff. I think that was the moral. Be an alien.
Be an alien. No, and finally, just one other thing, we were talking about is it's not just obviously Republican or Democrat, male, female. That's been the core of what we've discussed. We've discussed it's Republican, Democrat, and the male, female. Yeah. But it's also with race. It's with other countries. It's I heard. I think that we're getting close to a point where we all still think that war is a real thing, and that war it could happen soon, and that war is going away soon, because we're not going to need there's going to be no reason.
Right.
Pretty soon, Russia and China and the US, this is going to happen 100%, are going to be like, we don't really need to be fighting anymore. Like, why are we still fighting?
God, let's hope so.
What's the fight over? Because that's more divisiveness. We have these preconceived notions, and we're not going to have troops in war on the ground anymore because of tech and because of AI and because of drones. Because
drones just do it for us.
Are going to be able to go over there and do it. And the big powers are going to realize that they don't need to, like, we're past that now. We don't need to do that anymore, because if Russia and the US were to go to war today, the planet would blow up.
Yeah, correct.
So neither side has interest in doing that, because we're just lighting the planet on fire. We're just blowing everybody up.
Yeah, it would be the nuclear war of destruction.
That's right.
It would be like, we're the dinosaurs, and we're creating our own asteroid. And it would just be like, the end, human race gone.
So we need to start thinking about it just in terms of just,
different countries and...
Yeah, because if you come here, the alien, you walk in, like, there's no judgments, like, everything's clean.
Brand new and fresh. Yeah.
That's right. And I think that ultimately is how we're going to get to a better place inevitably. But we have a lot of work to do as
Geoff,
humanity.
we have a lot of work to do to fix this world.
But we're going to fix it here on the Launch Radio podcast.
On podcast number 21, we'll talk about how we're fixing the world. It'll be like Miss America. Yeah. Tell us what you would do. And it'll be like, world peace for everyone. And my reign is Miss America.
That's absolutely what we're going to do. 100%. And it's going to be fun. So episode 20.
Yes.
Fun times.
It was fun times.
And here at Launch Radio, we are the future, and the future is Launch Radio, because we love talking to you guys. We love chatting it up.
Make sure you subscribe. If you haven't already, we're on all the platforms, all the good ones.
Everything.
Which is all of them.
YouTube, Google, Apple, Breaker, all the podcasts.
All the things.
And we'll be here, as always, next week. Thank you for tuning in.
Bye, guys.
Later.